everybody, it's the Lawn Gnome, and welcome to another episode of Sunday Sit Downs, the show where anything goes and nothing is left behind. I have always am Steve, your friendly neighborhood lawn gnome, and I gotta say, guys, it feels like it has been a very long time since we've gotten together on a nice Sunday and actually had a great conversation. But just in case you are new to my channel, welcome. It is a pleasure to have you all here watching. If you are, I'm watching the channel. No one's here just yet, but that's just because of the fact that I have not been as good at getting everybody updated, because in case you guys didn't know, my wife and I just recently closed on our very first, which will most likely be our forever home, and the transitioning has begun. As you can see in the back, the bookshelf is not as full as it used to be. The pops are not even on the top of the shelf either. So we're moving, everybody. We're moving, we're shaking, things are going places, and I'm just glad that I have a little bit of time to spare to talk to all of you guys and just have a great conversation. Today marks a great deal of milestones and a lot of old milestones to actually talk about. First of all, this is the 10th episode of Sunday Sit Downs, guys. I cannot believe that we've been doing this so far for almost a complete year, and we have had such amazing conversations. I'm hoping that you all got introduced to a great deal of awesome people in the YouTube community to follow, and I'm sure that they're all grateful for that. But this is also the topic of discussion. We're talking about the 20th anniversary of a boy who lived, who came into our hearts 20 years ago, and that, of course, is Harry Potter. The book was published 20 years ago. Can you guys believe that? I cannot believe it. And in just 3 years, we'll be celebrating the 20th anniversary of The Sorcerer's Stone hitting movie theaters across the globe. That is massive, guys. But I'm rambling. I'm just welcoming myself back to talk to you guys. We also have to talk about the YouTuber who is going to be joining us today, because there's a great deal of milestones that this young lady has shared with me. This is the first person in the YouTube community that I actually spoke to outside of commenting on videos. She was one of my very first subscribers, and vice versa. She is also the first person that did a collaboration with me on 10 for 12s. She is also one of the first YouTubers that did one of my first live collaborations that ended up becoming the second episode of my show, Versus, which also just had its 10th episode. But this is someone who I have been friends with, I think at this point in time, for about 5 years. And to talk about Harry Potter, it is only appropriate that Christine, from her channel, which used to be called Christineoflittlehollow, which I'm now officially calling Christineoflittlehollow, is going to be joining me today to talk about Harry Potter. So, Christine, good morning to you, because you're still on the West Coast. So it's still morning by you. I want to thank you and welcome you to coming on the show today.
Hi, Steve. Good afternoon, I guess, to you over there.
Yeah, it's still the afternoon.
I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, I am very excited. I mean, we've talked about Harry Potter on our channels before, and I think the first episode was with Versus was absolutely fun to do, because that was just too much fun in talking about all the books, comparing them to all the films. I'm just saying to everybody in the chat, thank you all for coming. So I guess the best place to start is start at the beginning, as we always do, because as much as I think that we could talk for about 10 hours about Harry Potter, we're going to do our very best to try and keep it down to our usual 60 minutes. So as I said, we always have to begin at the beginning. And the first question that I'm going to ask you today is, let's go back to the very beginning. When did you first discover this book series, and how did you discover it?
I love this. It's so fun, like thinking back to before I knew Harry Potter existed.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
It's weird, yeah. For me, it was actually my cousin, who is about 8 years older than me, who I think had actually already read the first 4 books and had suggested them to me. At least the first one, I think at the time she thought I would be able to handle. So I think I was around 5 at the time when my dad actually read the first book to me. And the funniest thing is that when we first read that book, because my cousin said Hermione's name as Hermy1, that's how we read it. So
Oh,
for the
wow, that was
entire
funny.
first two books, we read those before the first movie came out. So we read Hermione as Hermy1 the entire time. And when the movie came out, I was like, how is that her name is said? I was so upset.
Oh yeah, that the same thing is actually very similar with me. I actually started calling her Hermione, and then
Okay.
someone once said to me that it's actually pronounced Hermione. So that
Oh my
person was
God.
close, but no, they were completely wrong at the end of the day.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I love that. But yeah, so for me, like at least when the books kind of first started being a part of my life, it was something that I kind of participated in with my dad because he read the first few books to me before I actually read them on my own. So that's kind of like it was like a bedtime story, I guess, for me growing up.
That's great.
Um,
That is wonderful.
yeah.
Yeah, so for me, it's a little bit of a different story. I mean, basically, this book series, by the time I first discovered it, I think there were already 3 books that had just come out. So there were not even any movies yet. So when the books were starting to get a buzz, my mother, who was somebody who always wants her kids to be readers, she wants them to read books that she thinks that they would like. Now, me personally, I was really not a reader when I was really young. And I think it was not because of the fact that I didn't enjoy reading. I think it was just because of the fact that I hadn't found the kinds of books that I enjoyed. Because throughout middle school, like, I was
Mm.
reading Michael Crichton books. Like I read Jurassic Park because I loved the movie so much, but that really didn't catch on. My mom suggested to me read a couple of John Grisham novels, and that was not really something that caught my ear. I actually read the Goosebumps series a lot later in life when I was actually going into high school, but those were actually fun reads. But she actually went out and bought the 3 books, intended for her to read them, which she never did, and also for my
Oh,
sister, and also my sister to read them because she was also really young, like she was like 9, 10,
mm.
so she thought the books would be appropriate for her. But then all of a sudden, I'm starting to hear about these books like on television, on radio stations, in newspapers, and all these people, young and old, are saying, you have to read these books. It's a reading revolution. Adults are reading these books. So I said, you know what? The books are in the house. Let me read them and just see what it's like. I picked up The Sorcerer's Stone and I was hooked in seconds. I loved the book. It was beautiful. Such a great, fun read. I could get behind the story, get behind the characters, and I immediately ran through them. I think what was even more revolutionary about Harry Potter was I had friends who never cared about books who were reading these books. So I felt that when I
I
finally
love
started,
that.
yeah, so I was literally saying, I think I'm going in the right direction here.
Mhm.
So yeah, ever since I read that first book, I was just like, I got to continue reading these. And when I put the 3rd book down, the 4th book was already starting to get published. And I was like, starting to see something very interesting because the 3rd book is nothing like the first book. And I'm like saying, something's happening here. So
Oh
that is,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think that's so interesting that like even though our age difference, for both of us, I think Harry Potter was a kind of turning point when it came to reading. Because for me, reading that series was like, now I need as many books as possible because I want to find that experience again of just escaping into this magical world, you know?
Yeah, and after that, I started finally picking up the Lord of the Rings books. I read those. I
Mhm.
finally read the Chronicles of Narnia series. So fantasy and science fiction was pretty much where I felt that my niche was. And I started reading, but now I'm literally reading a whole bunch of everything. Like I'm reading everything from sci-fi and fantasy to even books about politics. So like I'm very much immersed in reading now and I just enjoy it.
That's so fantastic that it just
Yeah.
like opened that all up, you know? I
Yeah,
love
it's
that.
amazing. It's amazing how one little book can just do that? So that actually brings us into the second question, and we sort of tackled it, but not so much. So I think we're going to go into a little bit more detail now, and that is when you started reading the books, were the movies already out? And if they were, how hard was it to actually resist going to see them before you read the respective books that were based on those films?
Okay, interesting. Yeah, so we did kind of touch on it, I guess. The movies hadn't started coming out when I started the series, but I'm pretty sure I had only read the first two books by the time the first movie had come out. Because I vividly remember this. I started reading the third Harry Potter book, and as a kid, my greatest fear was wolves.
Mm,
And because of Sirius Black in that book, the second I kind of there was that thing that there's the moment where the night bus comes and Harry looks down the alley and sees a big black dog. And
yes.
I just had nightmares and could not get through the rest of the book. So I actually had
Wow.
to have my cousin explain to me what kind of the secret behind the whole novel was so that I could like get through the rest of the book. So for me, yeah, I think it, like having that experience of reading at least the first couple without having the influence of the movies is really interesting because when I still go back and reread them, I kind of have an interpretation in my head that's like 5-year-old me's imagination of who the characters were. And I think that's kind
Right.
of a nice thing to have, just like a little bit more personal, I guess, than after the movies had come out. And I mean, once the later books came out or the later movies came out, um, I had read all the books before going to see the movies.
Hmm.
Because I mean I just had to read them the second they were they were published.
Right. Right. I think a lot of us felt that exact same way. I mean, like, I know
Yeah.
that there were so many people that actually, stood outside the bookstore and waited for those new books to come out. And then see, I think another one of the more interesting things was when those books were coming out, Amazon was still sort of in its baby stages. Like, it really wasn't the big powerhouse that it is right now. So the minute that they finally got it all right and like really modernized Amazon, you were able to just pre-order the book and it would come to you on the day of the release of the book in bookstores. I also loved that when you received the book, like there would like be a special packet saying, "Do not open this box until such and such a time." I loved that. I absolutely loved how it really became a staple in popular culture as the series kept on going all the way till the very end. I mean, for me, I agree with you. I feel that not having the movies when the books were first discovered by our own respective selves, I feel that that was a more positive thing because there are so many people out there right now who have never read the books but have seen all the films. And I
Oh
kind of
yeah.
feel that getting the opportunity to read the books first, there's just a little something extra special about knowing that. Well, I mean, I'll toot my own horn just a little bit, and you could probably fall into the same category. Like, you kind of feel a little bit more above everybody else saying that I was a fan before the movies. Like, I'm OG here, like I'm
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
feeling good
yeah.
about this. But when they started announcing the movies, it gave me more incentive to see where the story was going, like
Yeah.
even more excited about the books. Because I still remember when Order of the Phoenix came out, and that book came out in 2003, if I'm not mistaken, and the movie didn't come out until like 2007, I think it was. I'm pretty certain about
Yeah,
that.
there's quite a gap. Yeah.
And I just remember putting the Order of the Phoenix down and going to talk to a whole bunch of my other friends when we all read the books. And I was like, dude, this movie's going to kick ass. I cannot wait.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. Just like the excitement of, yeah, knowing that it's not over when you finish the book because we still had something else to wait for and be excited about, definitely.
Yeah. And I also feel that when you take a look at those characters, like you said earlier, it's like the characters are a certain thing that you remember when you're first picking up those books. I think one of the interesting things about Harry Potter is that even with the film comparisons, like you see and you hear the film characters, but at the same time, you still can feel those original interpretations in the back of your head as you're reading the book.
Mm,
And I think it's just because of the fact that people who are truly loyal fans of Harry Potter, they have the ability to look at the books and look at the films as two completely separate entities and love them both.
yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. it is so much fun to compare and contrast. You and I are living proof of that a couple of years back.
Exactly.
But at the same time, it's like what I think what really makes the books so wonderful is the fact that you can go back to those books and read them over and over and over again. There are so many books that you love when you read them, but you just cannot reread them. Harry Potter, oh man, I can reread them. I love rereading them.
Yeah. I'm still finding like new ways almost to interact with the books, because when I reread them, I think 3 years ago now that I reread them from start to finish, but I actually listened to the audiobooks, which was the first time that I had done that. And that I felt like just added a whole other kind of layer and understanding of the books. And I was able to read them while I was just walking to and from school, which I felt was like just a different experience with them. And I think kind of being able to interact with them in different ways and with new editions coming out and stuff is something that's also, just really nice.
Yeah, I mean, I'll throw in my love of capitalism out there. I mean, I still think it's kind of funny how when a new edition comes out, how so many people rush to get that new edition, and the best part is they don't care. I mean, I am the proud owner. My original copies of books 4 through 7 are original first printing editions.
Yeah, mine too. Yeah.
So I'm very happy about that. But I mean, they had those. People want the soft covers. People want the box set. People want now those editions that they're coming out with that are in the colors of all 4 of the Hogwarts houses.
Yeah. They're just finding new ways to make different covers.
But that just shows you how much the fans love this franchise. They will go out and they will buy them. That's the scary part.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And like I mean, I think it's one of those series that because it's so popular, there's always going to be new fans. And like as kids are growing up, there's a whole new generation of Harry Potter fans that are just like waiting to discover the series. So the fact that they're constantly kind of reproducing the books and re-releasing them, I mean, it just shows that it's not stopping anytime soon.
Yeah, just don't reboot the movies.
No, yeah, give it a few years.
I'm getting really upset with what Hollywood is doing, basically taking all of these old movies and rebooting and reinventing them. Do not do this. I mean, I still remember when there were rumors going around about how Zac Efron wanted to reboot Back to the Future. I was like, dude,
nope.
Don't you dare. Don't you dare. That was going to be one of the only reasons why I would actually go out to buy a gun. That and Cold Stone Creamery, people. That's a whole other story.
Oh my gosh.
That's just a funny story. I always say to people, like, when you leave a tip for someone at Cold Stone Creamery, it's like, they're going to sing and dance. I'm just like, take out the gun and say, guys, just accept the money and go back to your business. I've officially got a whole bunch of anti-gun people that are officially going to start yelling at me now. But I'm just doing this in good fun. It's just comedic purposes. Anyway, let's go back to the questions. So here's a fun one. Let's talk about some of the characters. I'd like to know, which character do you relate to the most, and which one do you relate to the least?
Oh, okay. I think growing up, for sure, Hermione was a character that I really looked to as almost like a role model, because she was somebody who is fiercely herself, even though she gets on a lot of people's nerves, because she's bossy and a know-it-all, and that's somebody that I could kind of relate to a lot while I was, especially in elementary school. I think I was a very bossy, know-it-all kind of kid, but she was somebody that showed that like you could be brave in your kind of compassion and your beliefs, and that was okay to kind of feel confident in the things that you believe in and fighting for those things, and especially by the time we get to kind of like the 4th and 5th books, when she's starting to, she has her Society for the Promotion of Elfish Welfare and all of that. I felt like that really resonated with me because when I was much younger, I was really involved with like environmentalism and animal kind of promoting, like helping. There was like this club that I was in that I can't remember in elementary school, but basically it was kind of trying to promote environmentalism in the sense that like we're destroying animal habitats, and that really upset me as a kid. So then reading things in Harry Potter that kind of reflected stuff in my own life, and through Hermione was something that like felt really important to me. So seeing who she was something that like I wanted to be her when I was a kid.
I think a great deal of young girls out there really felt that they were using her as a role model. I mean, my wife is
Yeah.
a Hermione fanatic, and she loves to read fan fictions all about her. She's her becoming like she's got the bush, she's got the same hair, she loves that. She just sees so much of herself in Hermione, and she really enjoys that.
Yeah, because I think she's a flawed character, but it's not necessarily something that is ever like her flaws are also, I guess, kind of her strengths in a lot
Yeah,
of ways. And I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to and kind of make them feel, I guess, a little bit good about themselves.
right.
And so I like that. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like who's the least like me character.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing. It makes you
Yeah.
think. Like I literally had to think hard about it. So as soon as you could probably come up with someone, I mean, you don't have to go into too much deep thought, but I'll let you know what I thought were mine. So
Okay. Yeah, because I'm thinking, I mean, oh God, there are so many just awful characters. You know? I'm thinking maybe the least like me. I'm trying to come up with something that's not like Baltimore, you know? Something maybe a little bit more um
just want to let you
int-
know that my wife actually just texted me while we were talking about Hermione, and it said Hermione is my spirit animal.
there you go. So oh, that's so perfect. Um Oh man. I'm thinking honestly, like maybe someone like Lucius Malfoy.
Hmm.
Um, because for him, like he's just got very strong beliefs about who the pure wizards are and kind of like
Right.
where their place is. But he also has this kind of like complex where like when he's at least in Voldemort's circle, he seems very scared to like he has to prove himself all the time, and he's like really scared about proving his own like prestige and importance and stuff, and I feel like that's just never been something that I like care about that much, I guess. um and like really he's the reason why Ginny gets manipulated by Tom Riddle in the second book. Like he's an evil guy.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I feel like maybe that's my, yeah, least relatable
All
character.
right. Well, I'll tell you, I actually did a lot of thinking, and the character that I relate to the most is Arthur Weasley.
Cute. I
And the
like
reason
that.
why I feel that way is because even though I'm not a parent yet, I can just see myself being like I'll still be a very strong parental figure, but I can also like my main determination is to let my child or children know that I am still your father. I still set the rules, but I am someone that I'm just gonna enjoy spending so much time with you. Like I'm gonna be the fun dad. Like I'm gonna be interested in what you're thinking about. Like that scene in the second film, which is of course not in the book, when Molly says to him that George and Fred and Ron stole the car. He's like, really? How did it go? Like I could see myself just being interested in what my kids want to talk about and just being there for them and just taking them on fun trips and vacations, but still being the very strong father figure because one of the few things that you know about the Weasleys is they are a very, very structured family, even though they do have a lot of sloppiness all about them, but they still all know their places. And that's a happy
Yeah.
family, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I also feel like Arthur's like interest in kind of muggle artifacts and stuff is like your version of being super into film, you know?
and just being interested in a whole bunch of other things. It's like I always say
Yeah.
to other YouTubers out there, you could have a show where you talk about nothing but underwater basket weaving. But if you show passion and you show such an interest, I am going to be so interested in this just because of how much you love it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's exactly it though. You have that same love. You have Arthur Weasley's passion for things.
Exactly.
That's so
And
good.
the character that I actually connect with the least is James Potter.
Oh, that's a really good one.
And the reason why is because here's the thing. I can see myself in a little of Sirius Black. I can see myself a little bit in Severus Snape. I can even see a little bit of myself in the Dark Lord himself. And the reason why is because a lot of these characters were not fully accepted by everybody. James was
Mm,
one of those characters that really felt like he coasted through life. He was able to make friends easily. He never seemed to have any issue with his schooling, even though he got into mischief. He was still doing well in all of his exams. He had such an easy road through life until unfortunately he met with his untimely demise. I never had that kind of an easy road in life.
yeah, no, that's really interesting. And because he's always described as having this kind of like arrogance to him and yeah, like it's a confidence that comes from not having to face any kind of difficulties.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like, I don't see myself in the Weasley twins because even though their family was always made fun of, they always shook it off. When I was made fun of, it was not easy for me at all times to shake it off. Like, these guys have thick skin, you know? But, like, almost
Hmm.
all the kids that everybody grows to know and love, and even a lot of the professors, you know, it's just like they're not perfect people. They've had some struggles, and a lot of them had struggles socially, which is something that almost everybody out there really has. Like,
Yeah, that's such a good point.
I mean, I feel like someone like my brother could relate with someone like James Potter because he's never had any issues. Good student, after school activities, always had people around him. I never had that, which is why I feel like I disconnect with this character.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That was a good one to draw on for sure.
Yeah. I was like saying to myself, there you go, that's it. Because at one point in time, I was saying to myself, Sirius, but no, Sirius had some issues. But no, that's the way I
Hmm.
felt. So just want to let everybody know we're officially reaching the half-minute mark very soon in about 2 minutes. So I know that it's a pretty quiet crowd today, and that's just because of the fact that I didn't have the time to really advertise this. But as always, everybody, just know that this video will be taken down in about an hour or two, so I can add an intro and an outro, and it will be back up on my channel tomorrow, which is October the 8th at around 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So let's continue on with the questions, and here's a fun one. When did you first discover that Harry Potter was becoming more than just something that you loved, aka an obsession?
Yeah, I like this. Um, oh man, this is so interesting. I mean, I was very fortunate that the summer after the first movie had come out, my family was traveling to England to visit my aunt and uncle, they just moved there for a few years, and they were living in London at the time.
Oh wow.
And yeah, and I mean, it's so strange to think, but at that point, my family didn't have internet. We didn't have a computer.
Hmm.
So I remember going to the library and using the public library computers to do research into where the filming was and what the different locations were. And so I had this whole long list and we had looked stuff up. So we went to King's Cross Station to platform 9 3/4. We ended up, because we drove up to Scotland, so we went to Alnwick Castle where they filmed a
Wow.
huge part of the first movie. So we got to see a lot of things. And at that point, before the series was huge, so there weren't like hundreds of fans at these sites, which now there are. And after traveling back there this last summer, and I went back to Alnwick Castle this summer, which was really cool to kind of like see it as an adult now and understand that my 7-year-old self kind of saw this as like the most magical thing ever. Um, but now it's like such a touristy destination, so it's like it's just got very different vibes. So I feel like getting to experience all of that when I was a lot younger and before the craze is what it is now, was a really special thing. I think for me, like, I was always just so into it. um, it wasn't until I started meeting other people who were as passionate about it. And really, once I started discovering YouTube and the fact that people were making Harry Potter related content on YouTube, that's when I realized that it was like a huge thing. And I was like, these are my people out here. Like, everybody is excited about the new books coming out. And feeling like I could like dress up and go to conventions that were Harry Potter related, like getting to see all of that and be around other people who kind of have that same passion and love for the series, that's what really kind of, I guess, made me realize that like what a big community it is and how important it is to me in a
Yeah.
way.
I mean, I don't know if that's, I don't think we ever discussed it. Did you ever have the opportunity to go to one of the Leaky Cons?
I did.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
so when I actually, I guess, oh my gosh, it would have been 2013, I think, that I went to the convention. And it was me and two of my best friends that went because it was in Portland, so it's on the West Coast. It was a little bit easier for us to get to. The last few years, it's been in Orlando, and then this year it was actually in Dallas, which
Wow.
by chance I was in Dallas this year, but the tickets had already
What?
long. I know, but they had long by like they had sold out months and months ago. I had, so I was like, that of course, of all the
There you
places that
go.
it.
Yeah, there you go.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, just like those experiences of getting to be around people who are just so passionate and be able to just have like Harry Potter related discussions all day is so much
Yeah.
fun.
And I think that's why a lot of people really don't look at it as an obsession, just because there are so many people out there that love these books and love these films. Even if they're not big readers or watchers or absorb any of the other stuff that Harry Potter has to offer, it's just there's something about this franchise that just
Mhm.
manages to grab onto everyone. And that's, I think, what makes it great. I mean, I don't think that I am. I will definitely consider myself what I like to prefer to as a Potterphile because I definitely like to collect a lot of Harry Potter things. I mean,
Mhm.
one of the few things that got me so envious from a lot of my friends who are just as much as Harry Potter fans as I am, they got all of the gear. Like they got the robes, the ties, the wands. It took me a while to get my hands on those because I just always said to myself, you know, yeah, it's one of the, especially with the robes, like it's just something that you know you're not going to walk around with all the time, but it's just going to be some one of
Mhm.
those things that you know that you're going to have for many, many years, and you're just going to share it with younger generations, and you're going to just see. It's like when people show their younger generations like their collection of like old Beatles memorabilia and
Oh
how much
yeah.
of an impact that was, or when older fans of Star Wars show younger generations like old movie posters and old photographs. Like there's just, it's that nostalgia factor, and Harry Potter is just one of those that goes on with
Yeah.
collecting all that nostalgia. I mean, it's even. I mean, look, you're a big baseball fan. People who have old baseball cards and baseball caps or bobbleheads from events or programs, like those are all collector's items, and Harry Potter
Mhm.
captures that as well.
Yeah, it's so true. That's funny that you say that. Like, I didn't really even think about the nostalgia kind of factor to all of that. I have newspaper clippings. I think like I never thought of it as an obsession myself until I was a little bit older. But I think obviously everybody else around me, I think, thought of it as an obsession. My grandpa, anytime he would see an article in the newspaper that had to do with Harry Potter, he would cut it out and bring it over to me
Oh,
so
that's
I
so
could read
nice.
it. Yeah, and so I have this box that's just literally full of newspaper clippings of just the Harry Potter craze, the fan craze, which is kind of a very strange thing probably to have. I don't know.
No, because it's so funny
But
that you
now
mentioned
it's
that.
nice to look back on that.
No, because the thing that's so funny is I actually have a collection, and it's still in my parents' house. I've been trying to get my hand on a scrapbook that would fit them. Ever since 1996, I have been cutting out articles of New York events that happen in sports. Like I wanted to capture
Okay.
those historic moments. Like if a World Series was won by a New York team, and also some old Olympic stuff. Like I have some old articles that happened with Olympic games. So like I just thought that those were things that were important to hold
That's
on
really
to.
cool. Yeah. That's
I
really,
mean,
really cool.
I actually cut out from the movie sections of my newspaper because they had these full on ads of the movie posters of all the Harry Potter films. So I cut
Oh
them
my
all out and I
goodness.
hung them in my old room. I was like, these are my Harry Potter posters.
That's so fantastic. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. So let's go into the fifth question. Now, I'm sure you're going to love this one. Your first impression of the theme parks.
Oh my gosh. Yay. Um, okay, so I've only been to the Orlando one, and it was before the expansion.
Right.
So I guess that's what is basically in California right now,
Okay.
would be the similar kind of like equivalent. Um, and like it is the most overwhelming experience to walk into those parks because it's just like everything you ever dreamed of. You're just walking onto the movie set. And it's beautiful and unbelievable. Um, and that the ride in the Hogwarts castle,
Yes.
honestly, is the best ride I've ever been on. It's just such an incredible like use of technology mixed in with the actual like physical ride itself. Oh, I honestly like if the line was not so bad when we had got there, I would have just done that all day.
Yeah, I mean, I just went to Harry Potter World for the first time in February.
Hmm.
One of the main goals that my wife and I had before we officially decided to take the next step in our lives, which was, house and hopefully family in a few years, was to see, just have a great time and just be kids for a little while. So we took a nice Orlando vacation. And I had friends who had already gone down to the Harry Potter park and went to Universal Studios because the last time I went down there, I was 13 years old and my wife was down there like 10 years ago. So
Oh my gosh.
it was such a different world for both of us. And even if we didn't go on any of the Harry Potter rides, it didn't matter because just being in this amazing dream come true, like you are actually now officially part of
Yes.
this world. All that we really could have done was we could have just walked into all the shops, had all the food, and we would have just called
Yeah.
it a day, and we would have been
Yeah.
feeling completely satisfied.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I totally experienced the same thing. I mean, it's also the level of detail. Like I remember in one of
Yes.
I think it was the post office that they have kind of near the front. We just happened to be walking around the side, I think because we were looking for kind of a space more away from the crowds to like put stuff in our backpack, something like really simple. And then they had a window, and in the window there was a howler that they had somehow like projected onto this like I guess like a silk screen, so it looked like it was really floating in the air. And just like that level of detail is unbelievable. But so you were
Yeah.
there when once the expansion had happened, so you saw the whole
Yeah.
like actual Diagon Alley and all of that.
Oh yeah, and my God, it really was amazing. I mean, you're absolutely right. Harry's Wondrous World, I think that's the name of the ride, or Wondrous Adventure. That's my
Yeah,
favorite. That was my favorite ride because I also
yeah.
went on Escape from Gringotts, which was still very good. But there's
Okay.
something about the other one that is so much better, and I think it's just because of the fact that you're in the castle atmosphere, like
Hmm.
you're in the middle of a Quidditch match. That's just fun, you know. Like
Yeah.
that's what I think is so much more fun. But the thing is about the rides, you were mentioning the simulation. That's pretty much what a lot of rides are doing right now. There were a lot of rides all throughout the Universal Studios park that felt exactly like that. Like you weren't just sitting
Okay.
in you weren't just sitting in one car and the car was rocking back and forth. No, the Transformers ride does that. The Shrek ride sort of kind of does that. So it basically like takes you through an entire ride and just puts you up in front of different 3D screens each time. So I'm
Oh,
really
that's
appreciating that. I
interesting.
really like that.
I feel like okay, so because like I mean, it's not that I've been to a lot of theme parks. I just go to Disneyland a lot.
I think that's pretty
Um,
much where most people go.
yeah, but for me, that ride in the Orlando Universal Studios was the first time I had ever kind of experienced anything like that. So it's interesting that that seemed to have almost like pioneered a new. type of
Yeah,
ride.
yeah, I actually think that it was not the first. The first
Okay.
one, I'm certain, is the Spider-Man 3D adventure on Marvel Superhero Island. That's the first one.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, you're totally right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
And
do
that's a
remember
good one
that.
too. That's a really good one.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember because you fall off like the tower or the
Yes. You
skyscraper
fall off
on
the
that, right?
skyscraper and they catch you in the web. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that being like, you really feel like you're falling.
It's crazy. It's just amazing
Yeah,
how much
yeah.
money is invested into all these parks to really give people an amazing experience. But I think one of the
Mhm.
best parts about being in the Harry Potter world is just seeing people new and old, just like young and old, just dressed in
Yeah,
Hogwarts robes.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And
I think like having people walk around in those in their costumes, and they're like the people who work there are hired and are supposed to come up with almost like a character for themselves. So they're meant to really like be a Gryffindor student or a Ravenclaw student, or working in Honeydukes, which I think is like, it just adds a whole level of realism to it, that like they've thought of everything.
yeah, and yet still, when you take a look, and I don't know if you do, but I certainly did, there were definitely, I think the most predominant house of guests at the park that were walking around was Hufflepuff. And yet, all the
Hmm.
souvenir shops, there's next to no Hufflepuff or Ravenclaw merchandise, specifically
Oh
like
yeah,
just for
yeah.
regular t-shirts, which is so upsetting because, especially in the YouTube community, and also myself and my wife, we're both Ravenclaws. And so many people I
Interesting.
met
Yeah,
on
yeah.
YouTube
There's a
are all
lot.
Ravenclaws. So I'm like,
Hmm.
why are they not
Yeah.
catering to all the fans, you know?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, obviously Gryffindor is going to be kind of going to have the most merchandise, I guess. But
Yeah,
it is interesting that there's a huge, I think even online, a huge Hufflepuff kind of community out
there
there.
is. There very
Because
much is.
they're very like proud of their house too. So they're the ones who are
Everybody
more likely to
is.
walk around kind of like wearing their gear.
Yeah, everybody is. Although I think what's kind of funny is these days when I'm actually reevaluating my personality now as an adult, it's crazy to believe I'm sort of leaning now a little bit more towards Slytherin, which was the last thing I
Really
ever would have. Yeah, because one of the traits
interesting.
that people have as a Slytherin is you're very cunning and you want to get your job done, whatever it
Mm,
takes. And
it's that
that's where I
hard work.
and
Yeah.
that's where I see myself these days because, like, especially when it comes to real
Mm.
life situations, I'm like anxious, like I gotta plan this, I gotta go, I gotta do this, I gotta get it done, I gotta get it done right. Like I see like Ravenclaws very intellectual, but I feel that when it comes to Slytherins, they are much more perfectionist.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I definitely think you're right. Yeah.
That's the way that I
So
look at it.
true.
Yeah, but what are you? You're a Gryffindor, right?
I'm a Gryffindor.
You
Yeah.
definitely
It's
do come
funny.
off as one.
Okay, well, I mean, that's good to know. Last night, I did the Pottermore sorting
Mm-hmm.
quiz again. And at first, so I was originally sorted into Ravenclaw, and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, mm-mm. So I took it again and was sorted into Gryffindor.
Yeah, I think one of the funniest parts about me is that so many people, because like I originally sorted myself when the movie website came out, so I never went on
Yeah.
Pottermore,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
and so I was always a Ravenclaw. Yet my friends always made fun of me and they said, "You're a Hufflepuff, you're a Hufflepuff." But now when I take a look at myself, it's like
Oh my gosh.
I put myself in front of everybody. My friends don't. I don't care about my friends when I have important things to do. They're all secondary in and I just care about me and my wife. That's my main focus, which is why I see myself leaning a lot more towards Slytherin, a lot less towards Hufflepuff these days.
Yeah. 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 That's really interesting. I mean, I think like obviously everybody kind of has a mix of all of the houses in them. And I definitely
Exactly.
think that at certain points in your life, you'll gravitate more to like a particular house. But that's interesting that you see yourself changing
It
now.
is kind of funny. I mean, well, I still think one of the funniest things is like one of my best friends who's obsessed with Harry Potter. He's like, I'm a Slytherin because I'm just a badass evil dude. That's what he says. But that's
Doesn't
just
even
him.
try and hide
Yeah.
it.
And I just loved the fact, I got the robes. I walked out with so many more wands. Like I love the wands. They're just stupid little pieces of high quality plastic. but you just love to have them on display. The one thing that I was
Yeah.
so upset about was they don't have Gilderoy Lockhart's wand. And I love Kenneth
Oh.
Branagh as Gilderoy Lockhart because he is
Yeah.
such a
Oh yeah.
bumbling idiot and he plays it
Yeah.
so well.
So well. He's so good.
Yeah, and you know me and the Funko Pops. Like I love the Funko Pops.
Yeah, of
It's such a
course.
massive collection, so I really have to pick and choose wisely. But
Hmm.
I recently got myself a Gilderoy Lockhart, and the details on it are so
Nice.
wonderful. And I would have my favorite professor is Professor Lupin, but I didn't get the pop because the pop does not look good. The Gilderoy Lockhart looks
Oh, okay.
wonderful, but when I found out that
Well, the
books
detail on his robe is gorgeous.
Yeah, but knowing that when I found out that Books a Million did the exclusive of Seamus Finnegan with the burnt face, I was like,
Oh my gosh,
I
yes.
had to get that because I told people that is something they should make because those cute little nods to the true fandom, like it's the fans that are truly going to appreciate that. It's just like when I
Yeah,
got the
yeah.
3 pop rides of the Hogwarts Express and the fact that the
Oh yeah,
Ron
that
pop that
one's really
comes with the
nice.
car has dirt on his nose. It's like
Yeah.
if you are a true Harry Potter fan, you know that Ron has dirt on his nose when he's going to Hogwarts for the first time on the Hogwarts Express.
Yeah, it's so perfect.
That's
Yeah.
the
I mean,
that's
they
the
really do their
fandom.
research. Yeah, yeah.
That's the fandom. So let's go into the next question, and I think this is going to be probably the most interesting because it definitely
Okay.
is going to be very thought provoking. How did you feel when the series, both specifically in the films, because the films actually did end first, how did you feel when the series ended and Fantastic Beasts began?
Interesting. Okay, well, I mean, definitely like when I found out that Fantastic Beasts was coming out, at first, um, part of me thought that it was not actually going to be real.
Uh
Um,
huh.
and then the other part of me was like, is this just a money thing? You know, they're just kind of trying
mm,
to draw it out as much as possible. But then when I found out that it was J.K. Rowling that's kind of was working on it and was writing the screenplay for it, so it was kind of like very much part of the canon and part of her story, and it's coming directly from her mind. I was really excited about it, and also 1920s New York. I mean, like I love anything set in the 20s, but I mean
oh, really?
specifically, yeah, I like the last few years I've gotten really into TV shows and books that are set in the 20s. Like have you read the Diviner series? Because that's 1920s New York, and I'm
No, I have
obsessed
not
with
read
it.
that. I mean, I did read The
Okay.
Great Gatsby, and that's 1920s New York.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I just think like you can do so much with it visually that would be so beautiful. And getting a whole new side of the wizarding worlds, like with Ilvermorny and the North American, I guess, perspective on the wizarding world, was something that I was definitely not disappointed about. I know a lot of people were, I guess, kind of upset because they want things to like stay the way they always were and just stay within the Harry Potter universe. And I do understand that. But for me, I'm like, give me as much as possible. I want more.
I'm gonna disagree with you on that just a little
Okay.
bit because when Harry Potter ended,
Hmm.
you probably know this just as well as I do. It's like fans were screaming for J.K. Rowling to give us more. Like
Oh yeah.
everybody always the main thing that people wanted was they wanted the Marauder story. They wanted James, Sirius, Wormtail, and Lupin all together. We wanted to see their
Hmm.
adventures.
Hmm.
But you see, to me, that was too typical. And
Okay.
obviously, going forward with the Cursed Child or the Cursed Child, nobody is liking that because that's just pure fan fiction. Nobody's enjoying that. I still have yet to actually hear somebody review the Cursed Child and say, I love this. Very few people I know
Hmm.
enjoy it. But
Yeah.
I was saying, why go to the Marauders? What about the whole the wizarding world from Lily's perspective? because Lily was from the Muggle world and immediately has no idea about everything, because there's a difference between her and Harry. Harry had guidance. Harry had people who knew who he was. Lily is a stranger in a strange land. She doesn't know anything. She doesn't have any family connected to this world. So this is literally a clean slate going into this brand new world that no one ever knew existed. But
Yeah.
for me personally, the one story that I want is Dumbledore, because his character, especially when you read about him in the Deathly Hallows, like, that's the character I want to know more about. There's so much more, even now, there's so much more mystery, which is why I'm so excited for the rest of this film series. I mean, getting back to Fantastic Beasts, two things made me get high hopes. One was the fact that J.K. Rowling was pretty much in the driver's seat, but also the fact that she brought David Yates back, because ever since she brought David Yates on with Order of the Phoenix, those movies turned into something so much more than what they were under Chris Columbus or Alfonso Cuarón or Mike Newell. There was just something about David Yates, because while there was a lot of those movies had a lot of differences, especially when you look at them compared to the film, the thing that made him such a strong director was how he connected the audience with the characters. He really knew how to work those characters and make them likable. I think
that's a really good point. Yeah, because the thing is, at that point, like, the books were becoming quite huge, really.
Yes.
And like there wasn't a way that you would be able to fit all of that information into a film. I mean, if you can't do that with the first one, you're definitely not doing it with the fifth one.
Yes.
But you're right that he did have a way of kind of capturing, for almost all characters, kind of the essence of what was important in the movies and adding something kind of like new in a way that audiences that weren't necessarily familiar with the books could still connect with the rest of the film series.
Yeah, and as those scripts were being written, it's like I feel that they took out the right things that they didn't have. Like, the whole thing with Spew in Goblet of Fire, it's cute, but it's not one of the main driving forces of Goblet of Fire. The one thing that upset me with the Order of the Phoenix was I would have loved to have seen Harry Drake have that fist fight. I really wanted that on the Quidditch pitch. That was the one thing in Order of the Phoenix I wish we got. You know, that would have been so much fun.
Yeah, just like kind of a like satisfied, kind of feeling from that, right?
And the fact that they split up the Deathly Hallows into two films, and we discussed this when we did Versus. It's just because of the fact that there is no way to take something out of this story. Everything is connected. Everything is crucial. It's a little bit upsetting that because of this, it started a very unnecessary trend with last books.
Yeah,
they started turning into films getting split, like Twilight. Horrible. Hunger Games, not necessary. When I found out that the Maze Runner was not going to split the Death Cure into two books, I was like, hallelujah, praise Jesus. You know?
Thank goodness.
Yeah,
no,
but
it's so true.
Yeah, but I am really loving Fantastic Beasts, and I'm loving the fact that it's not necessarily revolving just around Newt Scamander. It's like, we're going to see that big picture I can feel in these next four films. Like, we're really going to see Grindelwald and Dumbledore. Like, I think getting Jude Law to play a young Dumbledore was a stroke of genius. Love the fact that they got Jude Law to play him.
I completely agree. Yeah.
Not too thrilled about Johnny Depp playing Grindelwald, because even though he gives a very good British accent, he's not British.
You know what I kind of feel like is almost because as his own like celebrity, as a figure, he's he's a loved and hated character.
True.
Just himself. And I feel like that, like, I don't know, we'll wait and see, but I feel like that could work really well for Grindelwald, because he's somebody that in Dumbledore's past, he has a very close connection with him. They were very good friends. So it's somebody who has to be somewhat likable in a certain way, but also you have to hate him. And I think, like, I know a lot of fans were really upset with that he was casted, and I think it was because around the time that kind of all that news was coming out about Johnny Depp splitting up with his wife and and stuff. So there was a lot of bad publicity kind of surrounding the whole thing.
Yes.
But I think that's almost something that could work in his favor while watching the movie. Hopefully it doesn't take people too out of kind of the character, but I think it could
Yeah.
really work.
That's the problem, because a lot of people these days don't know how to celebrate the art from the actual person.
Yeah,
That's what you got to
separate
do
the
when it
two.
comes to films. Like, all these people, like, if you don't agree with an actor or an actress politically, you want to boycott all their films. Don't even
Hmm.
bother with that. You can hate the person, but you can hate the person if you want, but don't hate the game. Go to the movie if you
Yeah,
want to see
yeah,
the movie, and
yeah,
don't feel like and if somebody yells at you because you saw a movie that someone finds problematic, it's not your problem. Go
yeah.
see
And I
something
mean,
that you like.
I agree that to a certain extent, it's like if there's somebody who's done something absolutely horrible, yeah, they shouldn't be they should be in jail. They just shouldn't be making movies. But that's
Agreed.
a different
Agreed.
issue, you know?
Of course, it is a different
Yeah,
issue.
yeah,
I mean, it's like we all know what happened to Kevin Spacey. You know, he's a real
yeah,
seedy bastard. But
yeah.
are you seriously not going to ever watch a movie like American Beauty ever again? That's a
But
piece of
yeah,
art.
exactly. He's already done it. It's already happened. It is
Yeah,
a beautiful movie.
one of
Yeah.
my favorite movies is Baby Driver. They only discovered his scandal like
Mm,
3 months after that movie came out. But I love the director. I love the rest of the cast. And that movie is just a fun roller coaster ride. I love it.
yeah, yeah. It's okay to be aware of the kind of negative side of things and to be like, this is a person that I'm not going to support.
Hmm.
However, this is a film, as you say, as a piece of art that I think
Hmm.
is something that you can still appreciate.
And at the same time, it's just, even though Harry Potter is done, I mean, it's still not over with. I mean,
Yeah.
now we've got these beautiful illustrated editions that are coming out,
Yes.
and I'm so happy that they're doing that, because when I read these first three books, it's literally like it's been born anew. Like, I feel the book is new again. And what I love so
Yeah.
much about Jim Kay's illustrations is he's really trying to steer people away from the films, and sort of like,
Mhm.
I'm going to draw these illustrations how I saw the characters for the first time.
Yeah,
And it's
which I
really
think is so interesting that you can kind of like, as an illustrator for himself, to be able to separate your own imagination from the films that, I mean, as we say, are iconic and have such a kind of strong hold over the pop culture of
Mhm.
Harry Potter. To be able to separate that yourself from that is amazing, I think.
Yeah, I just wish
And
it
he's
wouldn't
done
take
such a good
so.
job.
Yes, I just wish it's not. I just hope it doesn't take too long to get the rest of the four, because we got to get all seven
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, we're gonna be waiting a
I'm
while.
so glad that I'm moving house, because to lift what those four next books are going to probably feel like,
You
I'm
know?
so glad I'm not
Yeah,
moving them.
that's so true. That's so
But
true.
anyway, we're definitely going to be going a little over time, and you know something, I don't mind, because I
Okay.
haven't done this in so long. I really want to continue talking as much as we can. So let's take our time. But yeah, before we get into the last question, I just want to say that it's Dumbledore that I want to see more of. Like, I really want to see his past, because all those little leaks that
Hmm.
we get in Deathly Hallows, just, there's so much to him. I really want to
Yeah.
know more. So I hope
Yeah.
that we'll see a little bit of that in this film, and maybe we'll see a little bit more somewhere down the line. Who knows?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that is what we're gonna get in this next movie. I
Right.
feel like that's what we're gonna
Yeah,
get.
I'm excited for the next one and everything
Oh,
else
me
that
too.
follows after this, 'cause I really am excited. So the last question is, what are your favorite book and film, and what are your least favorite book and film, and why?
Oh no, I have to choose a least favorite.
Oh, yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Oh
I already had
no.
those in my mind, always.
Okay.
See, not
Um,
appropriate to say. I said always. That's a Harry Potter line.
always, yeah. You can't help it. The more you
No, you
talk about it, it
can.
just comes out, right?
You can, yeah.
Um, okay, well, I'm gonna start them with my favorite movie, and this is actually because I rewatched the whole series I guess it would be like 2 summers ago now. Um, I think it was my brother and I, we watched a different one every single day for, I guess, 8 days. And that was, I feel like, such a good way of rewatching the movies, because I don't think I had ever actually done that where I'd watch them all back to back. Um, and I was really surprised to find that it was actually The Goblet of Fire that resonated with me most, as a film. I
Okay.
don't know what it was. I think maybe it's just all the action that's in it. it was super exciting because up until then I would have said that Deathly Hallows Part 1 was actually my favorite, which I think is not a very common one. A lot of people don't love Part 1 that much.
That's my favorite movie.
Okay, good. I feel like we definitely have discussed this before because I think I did know that. But I know, like, especially on YouTube, that seems to be the one that a lot of people are not a huge fan of. But I love all the character development that you kind of see in that. But yeah, I think Goblet of Fire, I just like, there's something about all the action, and I think it's just a beautiful movie too. I think the addition of the two other schools and seeing how they kind of brought those kind of new characters in was really interesting. And because it's a turning point in the series.
And your least favorite movie?
My least favorite movie is, oh, that's such a difficult one. I think I'm gonna say the third movie. And the reason for that is, again, because rewatching it as a kid, I really enjoyed it, but I felt like Alfonso's humor in it is not something that I necessarily connected with as much as an adult. I think he's got a lot of like physical kind of like joke moments, which just didn't work for me the same way as they did when I was younger, which is interesting because I loved that movie when I was younger. And I also feel like kind of almost watch the whole movie and then watch it a second time at the end, and it feels very long.
And
Yeah,
it's one of the shorter movies.
I know, which is so bizarre, but and maybe it's because I remember having sleepovers too in high school with friends where we would try and have a Harry Potter marathon, and we would always get through 1, 2, we would get to the third one, and we'd be like, okay, let's go to bed.
Right.
So I mean, it could be more of an association thing too.
Right. Well, for me, my favorite movie is The Deathly Hallows Part 1, and I get my Ultimate Editions. That shows my fandom. These beautiful Ultimate Editions, which are so hard to find now. And I'm also really glad that they put both of the films into one box. That was just so wonderful. But the reason why I love Deathly Hallows Part 1 so much is exactly what you said. A lot of people don't like it because they say it's just filler, but I disagree. There's so much of a rich character development, and I feel that was the movie where the Golden Trio really shined in terms of their acting potential. I mean, when Harry and Ron get into that extremely heated argument, like, you feel it. You really feel it. And that scene where Harry and Hermione are dancing in the tent, which was something that was just added in there by the writers for the film, it was just something that people connected with. Like, I still remember when I went to see that first movie in theaters, and people were whispering, and they're like, this was not in the book, but I like it.
Yeah, so many nice, just like, I mean, I think because a lot of people said it was like more slow and a little bit boring, but I think those slow moments were so important, especially before the big battle at the end. And it was a way to kind of show that, like, these are still kids and this is what they're kind of faced with and what they're up against. And I think it was a nice, like, quiet moment to just enjoy the characters.
And from a film perspective, that's called establishing mood. If you establish mood, it really gets the audience into it. And one of the things that I did actually realize was, you really have to watch both Deathly Hallows films back to back, because I remember when I saw the first one and I didn't see the second one until almost a year, like a whole bunch months later, I didn't enjoy the second one as much as I enjoyed the first one. But when I watched both of the films back to back, I loved them so much as a two-part piece.
Right.
I think that
they're
it
meant
works so
to
much
be
better.
seen like that.
Exactly. And my least favorite film, ironically, is also Prisoner of Azkaban. And the reasons why I don't like it is because, number one, it's the one that is the most different from the original.
It's true. Yeah.
Convoluted. It's all over the place until you get to the time traveling moment.
Yeah.
And everybody remembers that. But everything else, like, there were so many things that were just out of place, and I didn't like that. And one of the other issues I really didn't appreciate with Alfonso Cuarón is that he didn't focus on the supporting cast. You got a lot of Harry in the movie, and you got a lot of Lupin in the movie. But I kind of felt that the friendship that was built, especially, say what people want to say about the first two films. The friendship is there between Ron, Harry, and Hermione. In Prisoner of Azkaban, it seems like it's not there. And that takes away from it for me.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like watching that movie, you really need to have read the book quite soon before watching it, almost, to really kind of fill in the gaps for what's missing in it.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't connect with it as much as most people.
I agree.
And I think it's also because of the fact that a lot of people who are very close to the books, who are very faithful to the books, they kind of feel that the book was butchered. I mean, as I watch it, I do see a little bit more of good quality every single time I watch it again. But again, I still feel like it's just all over the place and it's not what it really should be.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think I agree. Yeah.
Okay, so now let's wrap this up with your favorite book and least favorite book.
So I think my favorite book would be Deathly Hallows. And I think, I don't know if that's just because I've read that one the most, with it being the last book, and there are just so many emotions that kind of always come back when I read it. But I just think it's almost like the culmination of all of J.K. Rowling's years of work and her growth as a writer have just kind of come together in this final book. And I think she's able to kind of suddenly show you things from the earlier novels that just kind of blew my mind, especially at the time.
Right.
So that one for me is definitely my favorite and most read of the books. My least favorite, don't make me choose. This is so hard. Oh man.
I said only your least favorite. That doesn't mean you have to hate it.
I know. Even that is like, I'm going to say the first one.
Okay.
I'm going to say the first one. And that's just because after rereading it so many times, it is definitely the most like children's novel of all of them. So it's maybe slightly less readable as an adult compared to being a kid.
Right. I see what you're saying. I mean, with the Sorcerer's Stone, for me, there's still that true whimsical and warmth about it. That's also one of the main reasons why I love the first movie so much. I mean, you can definitely tell with the first film there's so much to improve on, but you still have that true soft spot for it. But my favorite book is The Half-Blood Prince.
Okay, good choice.
The reason why I love it so much is because after two extremely dark books, it was time for a little bit of lightheartedness, and it was time to see teenagers be teenagers. I had fun with that.
Yeah. So
the whole thing with the girl troubles, like, it really heated up in that one, and it was just so much fun. And even and at the very end, what I love so much about it is, yes, it's lighthearted, but then when you get to the end, you are hit in the head with a brick, and you still remember that, the Dark Lord never sleeps. There's still things that we gotta do.
Oh yeah. That's a great choice.
Why not have a little bit of fun while we're doing that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my least favorite book is The Goblet of Fire.
Okay.
And the reason why is because of the fact that it didn't feel like I was in Harry's world anymore. Like, I didn't get my Quidditch. I was just really annoyed by the games. I didn't care for them. I think that they did it a little bit better in the movie. And maybe it was just because of the fact that there's a lot of filler and a lot of extra characters that weren't even in the movie. Like, Winky wasn't there and Ludo Bagman wasn't there. But then, especially when you see the movie, it's like, you didn't need them. They were just there for the sake of being there, I think, because I think that's one of the few things that makes the movie so relevant, because even though the books are such a great read, all 7 of them, you see what you could do to make them, if not better, just as good, and have them stand out on their own. You know what I mean?
Yeah, very true. Very true. Yeah.
Well, anyway, everybody, I know that we went a little bit over the hour, but can you blame us? It's Harry Potter. We have too much fun talking about Harry Potter. But anyway, that's all the time that we have for today. And I really want to thank everybody for coming back after such a long time of a hiatus. I just want to let everybody know there's still going to be a little bit more of a slowdown this month because I have so many things that I got on my plate to do this month. But there's still going to be so many Halloween themed videos showing up on this channel. So I'm hoping that you're all excited for that. And don't forget that this video is going to be taken down very soon so I can add the intro and outro, and it will be back up tomorrow, which is the 8th of October at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So before we go, I just want to say, Christine, thank you so much for joining me today. This was so much fun. I really wish that we could talk a little bit more about this. Maybe we'll have to continue this because one of the few things that I'm hoping for is that you haven't really made videos in a while. I'm hoping that this will give you some incentive to come back to the community because you were one of the first people that I talked to, worked with. I sort of feel that there's a void in my YouTube community and it's missing some people. And I want you, amongst a couple of other people who I've built such great friendships with, to come back and enjoy the community.
Oh, well, that's very nice. I really appreciate that, Steve. And thank you so much for, inviting me on the show today because, I mean, I feel like it has been a really long time since I've kind of dipped my toes in the YouTube world. So this feels really nice to almost like be back in this like second home almost, you know?
Yeah, it's sort of. I mean, like, it had its issues over the past couple of years, but I still feel that as long as you're with the right crowd and you gather the positive vibes, you're still going to enjoy yourself no matter what happens. So anyway, everybody, thank you as always for joining me. Please come back next month. We're going to have another great conversation in November and December. I've already got them in the works, and I'm hoping to get some good people to join me. So, as always, don't forget next month when we talk about another great topic, but more importantly, another great YouTuber to discuss it with. I'll see you all soon. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hey, thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. If you're new here and want to see more of what my channel has to offer, please click on the link to my last video, or hit that subscribe button to be kept up to date with all of my uploads. Content of all sorts is posted here quite often, so trust me, you do not want to fall behind. I will see you in the comments, and actions speak louder than words.